Have you ever found yourself wondering or asking yourself if you need the services of a financial advisor? If that's you, this video is going to give you a means to be able to come up with a definitive answer, a yes or no, based on your age group and based on a few things that financial advisors are known to do. My name's Peter. I am an ex financial advisor, and I can now create videos to help people make better financial decisions. So, to kick this off, this is going to be visual, by the way. So, I'm going to scribe, and you're going to follow me on my scribe as well. So, this is the visual that we're going to use. Obviously, there is a age bracket here. So, on this end, if you're 18 years old, we're going to cover. If you're at this end of the spectrum, we're also going to talk about the scenarios in which you might need a financial advisor. But I'm going to break it down into three age groups altogether: 18 to 24, 25 to 44, and 45 plus. Now, let's jump straight into it. So, what are financial advisors typically known to do on a day to day basis? Well, here's a list right here, and we're going to go through them one by one, and we're going to basically look at the scenarios at which you might need a financial advisor based on the age groups that we've just spoken about: 18 to 24, 25 to 44, and 45 years old plus. So, the first thing that most financial advisors are kind of known for is investment advice and therefore investment management. So, what they essentially do is they help you understand what you need to invest in, and they essentially invest that money for you and manage it on an ongoing basis. Now, I would say that if you are age 18 to 24, you don't necessarily need a financial advisor to help you get started. In fact, I would probably argue that there are easier ways for you to begin investing at 18 to 24. It is very, very likely that you are going to be in a position where you may be entering into your first job. You may not have a lot of surplus cash. And so that little bit of money that you're investing, it's really important that you are able to take advantage of compound interest and keep as much of your income or your investment to yourself as possible. Normally, with a financial advisor for investment advice and investment management services, they charge anywhere between 3 and 5% of the original amount you invest. And they also have a ongoing annual fee of around about 0.5% to 1%. And when you start calculating this over a number of years, it can be very, very expensive if you're not fully using all of their services. So if you're aged between 18 and 24, I would argue that you don't need the services of a financial advisor to help you get started investing. You just don't. There are easier ways for you to invest now with a lot of fintech apps, which I've covered even here on this channel. Now, if you're aged between 25 and 44, there may be an instance where actually you do need the services of a financial advisor. I would say that within this bracket, it is going to be heavily dependent on your income, your tax status, and your personal circumstances. And so, with this, if you're earning a lot of money, then financial advice could actually help you with understanding how to play the tax game. And we'll talk about tax planning a little bit later on. So, whilst I'd say that you don't necessarily need it, it is down to circumstances. I have definitely worked with people as a financial advisor who have been kind of in their late 30s, heading into their 40s, for example, because, let's be honest, people within this age bracket, certainly when you cross the 30, 35-year-old mark, you're more likely to be thinking about creating wealth, how you accumulate wealth over a period of time. You're probably in a good job. You probably have disposable income. You're trying to make the best out of your income so that you can create wealth for the future. So whilst it's kind of a yes and a no, I'm going to give it a half tick here. Okay. Now, if you're 45 years old plus, then I think that you probably will need the services of a financial advisor. You're probably a little bit further on in life at this point in time. And one of the key things that you may be thinking about is, in addition to obviously accumulating and building wealth via investments and maybe even through property, things like that. As you get closer towards, your 50s, early 50s, 55-ish roughly, those ideas, those conversations will be even more pertinent. And so I would say for 45-year-old plus, you probably do want to sit down with a financial advisor to help you with the investment advice and management, just to make sure that you've got everything in place, everything in the places that it needs to be and in the right structures for sure. The next one here is retirement planning. And to be honest, a little bit of this feeds into the investment management as well, but it's a separate thing because people do treat it separately. So within retirement planning, 18 to 24-year-old, I would say no. unless you've come into a lot of money and you're trying to figure out ways in which you can put it away in the most tax efficient manner. But if you're just a normal 18 to 24-year-old, I would say that you wouldn't need the services of a financial advisor specifically for retirement planning. What I do advocate, though, is if you are in this age group, make sure that you're paying into your workplace pension, so your auto enrollment. This is one of my own personal mistakes. When I first got my job when I was 18 years old, didn't even know what a pension was, didn't understand what it was. Nobody ever explained it to me. And there, I spent probably 11, 12 years or so working and never paying into a pension. And when we talk about investing here on this channel or just generally, one of the principles that you cannot get by is compound interest. And I lost literally 12 years of contributions and compound interest because I didn't know what a pension was and nobody told me. And particularly when you talk about retirement planning, 10 years lost in contributions and the compounding effect of your pension being invested, because it is, can amass to about, it can amass to six figures, to hundreds of thousands of pounds. So if you're 18 to 24 year old, you don't need the service of a financial advisor, but I would strongly encourage you to make sure you pay attention to your workplace pension. If you're in the ages of 25 to 44, again, there is a case where you may actually need them for this. But really importantly, if you're at the lower end of this, so you're 25, 30, 35, the focus really needs to be on your workplace auto enrollment pension. It's free money from the government, it's free money from your employer. So making sure you're maxing out the contributions into that, you're taking advantage of any matching that your provider, your employer, might provide you as well, and making sure that if you are lucky enough to be in a position where you can salary sacrifice, you can salary sacrifice. You don't necessarily need the services of a financial advisor for this. So I'm going to put a no in this box specifically. Now, if you're 45 plus, you probably do want to sit down with a financial advisor for this for sure, because you will be acutely aware of your retirement stages. And at 45, under current legislation, you can start to access your pension at 55. That's only 10 years away. And so making sure that you do have adequate pension provisions to make sure that you can retire in relative comfort, you want to get ahead of any problems early on. So at 45 is about the right time for you to get ahead of those problems, as opposed to getting to 53, God forbid, even 55, and then realizing I might not have enough to retire. I've certainly seen people from different spectrums at different ages within this category here. And sometimes, if you're trying to make up ground, well, 100% of the time, if you're trying to make up ground in your later years when it comes to pensions, the contribution level you need to make sometimes can be very uncomfortable and almost unrealistic. So I would say in this box, you definitely need the services of a financial advisor to make sure that you've got all of your ducks in a row. Next one, estate planning. Well, 18 to 24-year-old, no, you won't need a financial advisor for estate planning unless you are going to inherit a sizable amount of money. Now, in most of these instances, if you are going to be inheriting a sizable amount of money, there would have been planning done for you anyway. Your parents would have done that, or your person who's bequeathing you with this gift, this inheritance, would have done a lot of the planning for you in terms of inheritance tax. Fingers crossed. If that hasn't been done, then you're definitely going to need the services of a financial advisor. But generally speaking, for normal 18 to 24-year-olds, if you're not going to be inheriting anything large, then you won't need a financial advisor for this. And so, because there is a bit of a nuance here, I am going to put a half a tick. Now, in the 25 to 44 bracket, I think this conversation becomes a little bit more nuanced, because as you get to that 30, mid 30s, into your 40s, it is very, very likely that you're already having conversations with loved ones about what inheritance you might be receiving. You're probably actually very well aware of what inheritance you might be receiving. And if in most cases that I've certainly seen, there has been no planning beforehand, it could be a good idea to have a chat with a financial advisor to make sure that provisions are being put in place so that you don't get lumbered with an inheritance tax bill when you finally receive your inheritance. It can be a really, really uncomfortable conversation to have, but it is a necessary one. I've worked with a number of people that realize that they've got to pay an inheritance tax bill after the fact. And that means oftentimes they have to sell things to satisfy the HMRC bill that comes along with that. And so trying to get ahead of these problems beforehand is really, really important, particularly if you are aware that you're likely to receive some inheritance. Now, clearly, with inheritance, you do have inheritance tax thresholds. So as long as you're not breaching any of those thresholds, you may not need anyone. If you are, though, you will definitely need to speak to a financial advisor to help you structure that properly. So in this instance, for estate planning 25 to 44, I'm going to put a half tick in there as well. Now 44 plus, 45 plus, I would say that depending on the size of your asset, your estate, I should say, you probably do want to be speaking to a financial advisor around this. Again, you have thresholds in terms of inheritance tax. As a couple, it's £1 million. As an individual, it's £500,000. Now, with estate planning and inheritance tax, obviously you're not paying the bill. Your loved one's going to be paying the bill. But also at the same time, having that planning done beforehand means that you're not leaving it to your loved ones to do for you. So I always say that to get ahead of a problem, you need to get ahead of a problem early, or at least try to identify if there is going to be a problem. And so I would say if you know that you're going to have a sizable estate where inheritance tax may be due, you 100% want to speak to a financial advisor. If you know that your estate isn't going to breach any uh, inheritance tax thresholds, um, and again, not just today, but in the future, 5, 10 years from now, because people are living much, much longer, that you may not need to. But for this age group, I'm going to put a tick in the box because it can be quite nuanced, because you start looking at pensions, you start looking at investments, you start looking at cash, property. All of this goes into your pot as part of the estate. And one thing that I will say here is, no matter what age group you're in, especially if you're in receipt of a of an inheritance, there is often this real desire to do the right thing by the loved one who left you this inheritance. And this is particularly pertinent for people in the 18 to 24 and 25 to 44 age group. So you probably want to do the right thing. And I think taking advice will help you make the best decision for you. Now, financial planning. This is an interesting one, because financial planning isn't just about, investments, and some people think it is. Financial planning is a little bit more far-reaching than that, and I'll give you a couple of examples. You may have only just got married. You may have kids on the way. You just bought your first home, and you may want to make sure that you've got your finances in a row so that you can send your kids to college or to university. That is financial planning. So it's making sure that you have all of your money going into the right places to make certain goals and aspirations come true. Now, if you're age 18 to 24, do you really need that? I don't think that you actually do. One thing I do encourage people to do, though, is, and we're talking about this in a moment on goal setting, is make sure that you are setting clear goals for yourself and you understand what you're doing everything for. If you don't have clarity on that, believe me, years flow by, money just is earned and is lost, and it all becomes a little bit of a waste of time. But in 24-year-old gap, I don't think that you're going to need this. You potentially could need it if you're 25 to 44, because at this stage you are probably having kids. You have just bought your first home. You probably do want to make sure that you're on the journey to building wealth, right? Putting your money in the right place for legacy purposes, or just for a rainy day. So there is an argument that you should use a financial advisor in that spectrum. But again, it depends on a number of things: income, your circumstances, so on and so forth. So in this category, I think I'm going to put a half tick in here as well. Now, financial planning, 44, 45 plus. I would say that you do need a financial advisor for this, because again, tying back into the retirement planning picture, is not just about your pension. It is about your general investment accounts, about any cash that you have. It is also about ISAs. It's about property. It's about cleverly structuring your income and planning for that from a financial point of view for a number of years to come, because you may retire at age 60, but you might live till age 80. You don't want to run out of money. And whilst these two things do kind of intertwine, so financial planning, investment planning, they are slightly separate, because it isn't necessarily all about the pension specifically, although it sometimes does have other things in there. So you would probably want to sit down with someone to advise you on the best moves to make in this arena of financial planning if you're 45 plus. Now, goal setting, I put this on here because this is something I used to do as a financial advisor, and all advisors do this. We sit down with our clients, we try and understand what their goals, what their aspirations are, and the whole point of that is to unearth, right, what do you want to achieve in life generally, and how does money plug into this conversation? I talk about this in my book, and it's one of the big lessons that I learned working in Canary Wharf before I even qualified as a financial advisor. Back then the job was very, very stressful, and it was cutthroat. And my manager said to me, what are you doing all of this for? Like, why are you here? And whilst I was earning good money at the time, I was making good money but spending a lot of money. And I didn't want to leave there after my conversation with him about what is this for, having nothing to show for it. And I think this is very, very true with life. It's very, very easy for us to go to work, deal with the day to day, interact with family, go to the gym and build a business. And we really forget what matters, what our driving forces are, what is the purpose behind what we're doing. And I think regardless of whether you're 18 to 24, you should be setting goals. Do you need a financial advisor for that? Absolutely not. You don't when you're 18 to 24 years old. You just don't. But what you can do is you can work with people like myself who are now coaches that take people through a process to document your goals. And I would say this for the group of 25 to 44. You don't necessarily need a financial advisor for this, but it does help when you have someone who can help you tease out what your goals, aspirations, your life aspirations are, and help you document, map, work back at the important steps that you need to take in order to make the big things happen. It's one of the things that I love doing when I coach people individually. You don't need a financial advisor to do that if you're in that range of 25 to 44. Do you need this when you're 45 plus? Again, heading towards 50s, if you're in your mid 50s, 60s, having a clear goal is very, very important. But hopefully you would have done that within your retirement planning and your financial planning sessions, or your investment management or investment advice sessions with your advisor. But do you need a financial advisor necessarily to do that? No, you don't. I believe that goal setting can be done by anyone very, very easily. And I don't think you need a financial advisor necessarily. You can do that with a coach. You could actually do it with a friend if you wanted to. But having someone with expertise to help you tease out what's the goal, what's the financial element, what's the gap you need to fill, and the steps you need to take. That's where I think a coach really comes in. Now, tax planning is very, very important. Now, 18 to 24-year-old, do you need a financial advisor for tax planning? If you have a lot of income, yes, you probably do. So I'm going to put a half a tick there because, look, people are earning a lot of money on social media these days, and I am completely aware of that. The benefit of tax planning is simply just making sure that you're putting your money in the right place from a tax efficiency point of view. Obviously, we talk a lot about ISAs here on the channel. Are you utilizing your ISAs? But beyond your ISAs, which is only £20,000, and I say only like it's not a lot of money, it's all relative, but it is a lot of money. After you've used your ISA, what other vehicles can you use to keep you tax efficient? That's where you definitely need some financial advice to help you, because it's very, very easy to get caught into things that may promise you a high return but aren't necessarily tax efficient. So I would say, as an 18 to 24-year-old, yes, you probably do if you have the level of income, but in some cases, if you haven't, then you won't. So I'm going to give that a half tick right there. 25 to 44, do you need a financial advisor for tax planning? Probably yes. And again, it's all about your earnings, right? Disposable income. You probably want to create wealth. You're not going to create wealth if you're paying a ton of tax. So that tax planning benefit that a financial advisor can provide you with the appropriate investment wrappers, the investment accounts that you can go and put money into, just structuring, making sure that your money's parked in places so you can get it into tax efficient environments as quickly as possible is pretty much a no-brainer. And so I'm going to give it a full tick in that area. 45 plus, I would say exactly the same. Tax planning is very important, particularly if you are in the phase where you're drawing income from your pension, because then it isn't just about where do you draw it from. And it's actually not about the pension at all. It's about your pension, it's about your ISA, it's about your general investment account, it's about cash, it's about property, it's about all of your assets. So how do you draw down in the most tax efficient way so you're not paying money that you don't need to pay to the government? Very, 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 very important. And the way we structure these when we used to give advice is actually quite clever. It's about making sure that we understand what you have, in what sequence you start to draw income from it to make sure you're not paying the tax that you need, all within legal parameters clearly. So that's a big tick there. Now, the last thing I've got on this list here is insurance and protection. Now, if you're 18 to 24-year-old, do you need a financial advisor to do this? I'm going to say yes, you do. And the reason for that is if you're looking at things like critical illness, life insurance, for example, the younger you get these policies, the cheaper it is. And the great thing is you can fix the cost of the policy for the lifetime of the policy, which is always great. And it's better to take out these kind of insurances young than wait until you're, 30 odd years old, where the premiums potentially kind of double. And insurance is a funny thing because it's one of those things where the adage, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it comes into play, right? You don't necessarily want to be paying premiums for something that you haven't used and you've been paying the premiums for 5 years, but you know you need it at some point, you've cancelled it, and there you go, you've got no cover at all. And the reason why I say go to a financial advisor is because it's very important to understand the fine print of the policy. So if you have any pre-existing medical conditions, not just within yourself, if there is anything within your family that can be passed down, so it's hereditary, those things can impact life insurance and critical illness policies. So to understand and make sure that you're picking a policy that is right for you, that is going to pay out and it's not going to be a waste of money in the moment of need, is crucial. And so seeing a financial advisor will help you dot the I's and cross the T's. So a clear yes if you're 18 to 24-year-old on insurance and protection. The same applies really for people within the age group of 25 to 44 for the exact same reasons. And 45 plus, do you need a financial advisor for insurances? At that phase of life, you may not necessarily think that insurances are important, but I would argue that they're probably more important at that stage, purely because people become more prone to illnesses at that stage. So getting a policy sooner rather than later really is the name of the game here. If you're in your 50s and 60s, you don't have a policy and you're trying to get one, it's going to be extremely expensive because the chances are you're likely going to have some kind of illness because your immune system has been through the miller as we live, right? And that's just the fact of it. So getting into it early is so much easier and very, very important. So a tick across the board here. So look, let's just summarize very, very quickly. We've covered 7 areas where you might need a financial advisor. Okay. Now, if you're 18 to 24, we've identified two areas. I'm gonna round these up. So you've got 2 half marks. You've got a half mark in estate planning if you're inheriting money, for example, or you've got money coming to you that you know of, potentially could help you with that. We've got a half mark in tax planning, again, depending on income. If you're earning a lot of money, you probably want to seek some advice. And we've got a tick in there for insurance and protection. If you're between the ages of 25 and 44, we've got a half mark if, you're looking to invest, get investment advice, and you're looking for someone to manage your investments for you. Yes, you can do it on your own. But again, if you want to make sure you're getting it right and you're earning really good money, your concern is building wealth, you want to make sure you're doing it in the right way, not taking any chances because this isn't your bag, you'd rather have a professional in place, then yes, you may need it. We have a half tick in estate planning. If you're going to be inheriting money, you know that's going to be the case. We've got a half tick in financial planning. Maybe you've got kids and you want to be able to plan for the future for, I don't know, school fees, for example, or putting money away so that you can provide them with the start that you didn't have, a house deposit, for example, then you may need them for that. We have a full tick in tax planning. Again, making sure that as you're going on this journey to create wealth, you're making sure that you're not paying tax in places where you don't need to pay tax. Again, within legal parameters. And we've got a full tick on insurance and protection. 45 plus. Well, you've got a tick in every single part apart from the goal setting. I think when you get to 45 plus, particularly if you're at the back end, so you're like, 50, 55, financial advice at that level is worth its weight in gold, just to make sure that you've not worked all of your life only to have no money in retirement, only to not have any money when you really need it. One of the key concerns for people who are a little bit older, who are 55, 60 years old, is, what if I need to go into a care home? How do I fund that? Those things are notoriously expensive. And planning ahead for those kind of eventualities needs to start early. You don't want to be picking it up when you may not be in the right place, or you might not have all of your faculties to make a really good decision. A financial planner and advisor will also help you understand whether or not you need something like a power of attorney in place, or letters of authorities in place. It's invaluable at that stage where you may need that expertise to make a real tangible difference. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please make sure that you smash the like button, and if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe. It will just help the channel grow. But I want to turn this over to you. Do you think there's anything that I've missed on this list right here? Are there any nuances that you think that maybe I've missed? Is there anything that you agree or maybe even disagree with? Let me know in the comments down below. But remember, money is a tool, life's for living. I will catch you next week.